We saw how the recent increased geopolitical tensions breathed new life into gold and the mining stocks, but as tensions waned, so did the upswing we saw. Gold is slightly up this Wednesday, but still unable to break key resistance levels. So what's next for the gold stocks? We're joined by famed geologist and mining guru, Brent Cook. Brent, it's been too long. Thanks so much for joining us.
Glad to be back on. Thank you, Daniela.
So Brent, we saw the recent hype back into the gold space. It finally got exciting again. Then we perhaps got too ahead of ourselves here. So are you bullish on the sector as we gear up for the end of year here? How do you see it?
I am bullish on gold. I think the gold price is more or less range bound unless we get some really serious geopolitical event. So I see it as range bound. What I'm really positive on is the interest I'm seeing in the gold sector, especially in the junior sector, where we focus. And what I'm seeing is a lot more money coming into exploration from major mining companies. In fact, the majors have put in something in the order of $300 million into junior companies this year alone. And I'm seeing a lot of positive feedback when companies announce what may be a new discovery. So on the discovery side, it's looking pretty darn nice. I think we're set up for a real...
You haven't said that in a long time, Brett. So, to hear you this positive, because I know for a long time you were saying you weren't liking what you were seeing in the junior side, that there were too many companies, too many players, and a lot of them you didn't believe in.
Well, that's still the case. I think, the odds of success are really low. Most of the companies that I look at don't really have a project that would interest me. And what Joe and I focus on is finding a discovery that's going to be big enough and economic enough to interest a major to come in and buy it. So we're looking for the very few select tier one, maybe tier two economic discoveries in that space. And what we're seeing now is the major mining companies, I've been saying this for a few years now, I think you remember, that they are not finding enough gold to replace what they're mining. They're finally waking up to that this year, and we're going to see, I think, them moving in on discovery plays earlier and earlier, and that's a real positive.
So, Brent Cook, full disclosure here, can you give us some names that you think have potential here?
Well, certainly Mirasol Resources, which is one I've held for a long time. They've got a number of joint ventures with major companies in Argentina and Chile. They're doing grassroots exploration, finding large alteration and mineralized systems that should interest a major. So I think they're set and due for discovery this year. I was just in Australia looking at Novo Resources, which, if you haven't seen that, you should pull up the chart, NOV in Vancouver. They're onto what could be a massive Witwatersrand style or like deposit in Australia that is, I'll admit right up, the stock is way overvalued for what we know, but the potential there is astounding if they pull it off. There's a lot of work to do, a lot of information to come out. So those are two that are pretty interesting.
Okay, so
yeah,
so you're optimistic from what I sense on the junior mining space. What about regarding physical gold, the price of gold, and where we are at now?
I'm neutral. I'm surprised at how well it's held up. I'm disappointed that it hasn't done better, but I think we've got a base, and I don't spend a lot of time guessing where the gold price is going to go. What's more important to me is that I know the majors need new deposits, and as long as they need new deposits, they're going to be out buying economic discoveries. So as long as I'm in that space, the gold price is not a big factor.
Finally, Brent, there's been a lot of talk about how President Trump has affected the gold space and whether he's been positive for it or not. How do you see it?
As an American, I used to be embarrassed. Now I'm ashamed at what he's pulling off. He has not had much effect that I've seen on the gold space. I don't know if that will happen. It depends on what he does in North Korea or wherever he goes next. So I don't see him as a big factor per se in the gold price.
All right.
I'll leave it at that.
All right. I see you are refraining yourself, Brent Cook. Thanks so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Danielle.
Yeah, we'll see you at the Beaver Creek Conference next month. And thanks for watching this edition of Kitco's Gold Report. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey.